because you've seen in Me Too, the kind of, just random allegations that have been flying, like 10 years before, 15 years before I was raped. Now, how is the man supposed to defend himself? Everything cannot be from the perspective of a woman. A law has to be fair, a law has to be balanced, so that both parties have equal opportunity to defend themselves.
रेप का भी कोई केस अगर आउटसाइड ऑफ मैरिज अगर कोई रेप केस जाता है तो उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन कुछ होती है ना,
वही तो मैंने आपको
वो सीधे मैम इसीलिए तो ये डेलिब्रेशन हो रहे हैं ना, इसीलिए तो जो ड्यू कोर्स ऑफ प्रोसीजर है वो देखा जा रहा है ना, इसीलिए तो वी जस्ट डू नॉट हैव अ लॉ, एंड इसीलिए तो ऐसा है ना कि लॉ एजेंसीज जो है उन्होंने सीधा स्ट्रक डाउन नहीं कर दिया.
आई विल आंसर दैट. व्हेन यू से हाउ मेनी केसेस वी हियर अबाउट मेन, tell me how many agencies are recording domestic violence against men?
Exactly, ma'am. They are
recording. No. Tell me which government agency is recording. NCRB is recording full data against dowry violence, against dowry death.
I'm sure you are aware that they are being underreported.
No, but I'm asking you which agency is reporting for the men. How is the police officer going to define whether the woman consented?
I cannot speak for somebody. I cannot speak for police. It is for the law agencies to find this law. That there should be a way to make this law to make this law a very strong process.
So you are saying that
I am not saying that
we will keep pushing for more and more biased laws, but we will not say a word against the women who are filing false cases.
Ma'am, it is not. Ma'am, it is not. Why do we always keep on chanting this thing that it is going to leave men in a place where they will be violated and where they will not be protected, when we are trying to just empower women with more rights?
Now you tell me, today, if a married man, is having consensual sex with his wife, and the next morning the wife wakes up and she says, I did not consent, are you telling me the husband is supposed to live under this fear for the rest of his life with that wife कि पता नहीं कल अगर मैंने उसको कोई ज्वेलरी नहीं दिलाई या कुछ मैंने उसको my in-laws के साथ उसका झगड़ा हो गया? The man is always at a threat of being charged as a rapist.
I think we need to recognize that things like these happen, and when we say that marriage is very pious and the institution of marriage will get diluted and comments like these and arguments like these, I think the basic thing, when there is violence in marriage, I think it justifies everything that marriage is that marriage is already broken.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Neeraj, and I welcome everyone to Bharata First Yuva Manch series. And in today's topic of discussion is marital rape. Before starting this discussion, if you like our content on this channel, make sure to like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Today on this episode, we have Anubha Mishra, who is pursuing her master's in English literature, and she is also interested in politics and contemporary issues, and also writes for Feminism in India. We also have Arnaz Hathiram, the founder of Men's Day Out, a website on men's rights, which also provides legal help to men. There have been many petitions before the courts in India to declare marital rape as a criminal offence. Now, many believe that criminalizing marital rape can destabilize the institution of marriage. And the example they provide is of Section 498A, where India has witnessed instances of misuse of these laws. Whereas a study by the UN points out that more than two-thirds of married women in India between the ages of 15 and 49 have been beaten or forced to provide sex. So out of 195 countries, only 36 countries have not criminalized marital rape in India. And India is one of them. So let's dive into this discussion of #marital rape versus #marriage strike that has been going on Twitter. So the first question is for Anubha. How do you define marital rape, and do you have any information on how the petitioners are going to formulate it?
Right. So thank you, Neeraj and Team Bharata First, for inviting me to this show, and I hope that we do form a consensus on marital rape, unlike our central government and other agencies. So as per your question, what is marital rape? I think any sexual act that is performed without any performed without any consent of both the partners, I think it should define as a rape. And as far as marital rape is concerned, so the definition extends to that also. Being married or not being married does not define or does not give you a license to rape somebody or to violate their physical or bodily agency. So yes, that is marital rape.
And how are they? Do you have any information on how are the petitioners going to formulate this law?
Right. So there are few key takeaways that I've been reading on this issue, and foremost being that you see rape is being misreported or underreported in our country because of obvious reasons, and that is outside of marriage. So you can you can identify from that how marital rape is a serious concern in our society, because marriage is something that is concerned very sacrosanct, and it is very pious in our society. So marital rape, there are few key takeaways. First being, it should be decriminalized in a sense that section IPC 375 talks about criminalizing it, and it is going to take away the subsection that talks about husband only, namely husband, and men, namely husband. It is going to take away that, and it is not going to create any sort of other criminality. So yes.
And Arnaz, how do you see this petition and hearings going on the issue of marital rape, and what are the consequences that you think will arise if the law if the law is given a green flag?
So first of all, good evening to Bharata first, and also to my co-panelist, Anubha. Thank you so much, first of all, for having this alternate view, because somewhere, we have been creating this narrative that anybody who is opposing the criminalization of marital rape is a potential future rapist. It's very sad that, we have set this kind of a narrative in media today, completely overlooking, the other side, or, the existing prevailing laws that we already have in place. Before I begin, I just want to say I run this portal called Men's Day Out. I'm not a lawyer, so whatever views I have are in the capacity of reporting from the men's side and not in the form of a lawyer. Now let's see, right now what is happening is the whole debate has been structured around marital rape PIL, is that women in India do not have any recourse in the current segment of things. So what we are trying to say is that if today a wife is sexually abused in a marriage by her husband, she does not have recourse for getting out of it or getting that person arrested. Now, this is completely a false narrative, because we already have several sections in place which are, again, completely in favor of wives, totally one-sided sections. Namely, first, let me start with 498A, which covers any kind of physical or physical or mental cruelty to a wife, either by a husband or any of his relatives. If you look at the Domestic Violence Act 2005, it is already giving women wives protection under being sexually harassed or exploited by their husbands. Of lately, if you see the trends of FIRs which have been filed in divorce petitions, it also includes another section against the husband, which is section 377 of the IPC, which is talking about unnatural sex by the husband on his wife. Now, when we say that let us bring in one more law, which is the marital rape law, which is going to arm only and only the wife, let me finish, only and only the wife against the husband, I don't think that, we should look at it in a way that, okay, if, subsection 2 of section 375 continues, then it is like a license for husbands to rape their wives. No, I'm sorry. When this particular act was enacted by the parliament years ago, decades ago, I'm sure they thought about it. Why did they give exception to the husbands? And it does not mean that if you are against criminalization of marital rape, that it gives man a license to rape his wife. I think first of all we need to counter that narrative in the media, and then we can proceed on the other arguments for it.
Yes, and how will you respond to it, Anubha?
Right. So there are a few points that I would like to raise my objections to, and not objections that I think should be countered. First being, like ma'am said, that it is going to place another law that will criminalize marital rape. So I think it is just going to take away that exception from section 375. It is not going to create another law. It is just going to take away that subsection that is in place right now. And second being, like ma'am said, that Protection of Women's Act 2015 is in place, and it is a civil law that that gives a recourse for women to take action against husband. But what if her wishes are against, she wants to take more actions against it, and she wants to, she seeks a better recourse for the kind of crime that is being committed. So what in case of that? And it is not like that that women are going to take it in a way that it will punish or it will punish their husbands. I think the way is it should be as a deterrent. So in future, when something like this goes wrong, there should be a better way out for problems like these.
Anubha, women can file complaints about sexual assault under Section 498A
Right.
against their husbands.
Right.
Another
But that is again that do not criminalize.
Madam, what about Section 377? It is again an offense under the IPC, and you can very well send your husband behind bars if you think he has committed.
The problem is not about sending somebody behind the bar. The problem is that there should be a deterrent.
What is a deterrent? What are you talking about? I think you need to be clear about the objective of bringing in this kind of law. What is the objective that you're trying to send? Even 377 is a deterrent. Are you saying that today? No, are you saying that today, when this particular exception exists in Section 375, are you saying that every man in India today is raping his wife?
No, ma'am, it is not. No.
And all women are quiet.
Every man. It is not about every man, but you cannot take a barrier, and you cannot shield those who are committing this crime.
That's what I'm asking you. Let's say not all men, but whichever men.
Yes, exactly.
Let me ask you this question. If we think that currently in the scheme of things, when this exception remains in Section 375, and if a man is committing rape on his wife, are you telling me today, if she visits police station and files a case against him under Section 498A, under 377, under Domestic Violence Act, are you saying she's not going to get any recourse? Are you saying that the police is going to turn around and say, sorry?
The problem is, for as lawyers and as law, there should be the recourse that the person is seeking. It is not up to you. It is not up to you, me. It is not up to you. It is not up to me to decide what the kind of recourse they want.
That is what I'm asking you. What is the recourse?
We are just going to lay down the options before them. And it is up to them the kind of recourse they want for themselves.
Anubha, I think that the things we are talking on is very vague. The thing about recourse that you are talking is very vague, because you're not defining it in a very detailed way. So just want to know what will be the recourse.
It is when something like this goes up, when something like marital rape is being reported to police or to other agencies, I think it is the first thing, that it is a very private matter. You are going to take your personal life in public. So there has to be a way out that protects both the men's part and the women's part. So yes, that is what I'm trying to say.
Anubha, okay. You can respond to Anubha.
No, I don't want to respond. I actually want to understand that when you say we need this new law, what is the end
Ma'am, it is
objective
not,
which
ma'am, it is
currently
not
no,
new law. It is
it's not a
new
new
law.
law, it's not a new
It's
law,
not
but
new law.
it will perhaps have, it will, you know, as you said,
It
it
is
will add one more recourse to the wife to file an FIR in
right.
case she's going through an abusive marriage.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that women in India who are suffering from this kind of sexual abuse in a marriage do not need justice or do not need recourse and we are shielding men. No, I'm absolutely not on this. I'm only asking you that in the current scheme of things, if this kind of scenario is prevailing with a wife or a woman, are you saying that she does not have recourse? Or you are saying that yes, ABC recourse is there, but let us give us a fourth recourse now,
No,
so
no,
that
ma'am.
if she
My
wants to
point
say,
is,
"No, I want to
my
send my
point
husband
is-
under this section, let me put that section also."
No, no,
Are we
my
saying that?
point, ma'am, my point is, just my point is that there are recourses available, but that does not mean that we cannot have a better recourse. That does not
What is
stop us
better
from being
recourse?
a, that
That's
does
again,
not,
I'm asking you, you haven't been able to define what is a better recourse. What is the end result
so,
that you want to achieve that the woman cannot get in the current prevailing laws?
so, right, ma'am. जैसे मैम आपने बोला that there should be explicit reason, there should be explicit provisions ना, जो explicit provisions होने चाहिए कि marital rape should be criminalized, वो नहीं है. And that is why जो ये एक perpetuity है, एक जो ये perpetuity चला आ रहा है, इसको it should be addressed in a better way. This is my point.
See, Anubha, when we talk about any crime or various types of evidences that are being asked, like physical evidences, testimonial evidences, circumstantial evidences, call records, but it seems that in marital rape issue, the word of the wife that she did not consent will be treated as evidence. So, what do you
No, no,
think
no.
about
This
this?
is not the case. This is not that. That is not how law proceedings take place. That only one party gets the chance to say, and the word of one party is going to be the only sacrosanct thing that is that will be admitted as proof. But yes, the onus lies on the husband to prove that so and so act was committed.
Arnaz, how will you respond to this?
See, I will take a macro view when it comes to matrimonial laws. Whenever we are making any kind of laws which are, you know, addressing domestic issues which happen in four corners of the wall, I don't think it is right for us only to rest all the laws in favor of one party, which currently in India is only the wife. Because we all know the way the system works. You know, it doesn't take much to just report a case or file a case against a husband and his family. But alternately, it will take years and years for that man and his family to run around courts and to get themselves acquitted if the case was false. Now,
Why do you think that it is only women centric?
I will come to that, and I will be happy to list all the laws
Let
that we have.
Arnaz respond. Let Arnaz.
Yeah, I'll be happy to respond that as well. And I will be very keen to learn from you that what are the laws in favor of men, so that we can address that point as well.
Ma'am, firstly,
So
I
now
think
coming back
when this IPC
Anubha.
was formed back in 18th century, I think it was
18th
formed
century.
from men's point. Sorry.
18th century. I'm sorry.
18th century, yes, ma'am. IPC laws are the current IPC laws. They were formed back in 18th century.
No, but right now, I think I was addressing something else, so we can come back to that point a little later, I guess.
Okay.
Yes, Arnaz, you can respond to her.
Right. So I was talking about whenever we are making matrimonial laws, I think we need to look at both aspects. We cannot overrule the aspect of misuse. A lot of people I've heard right now saying is that, oh yes, misuse happens, but that does not deter us from making a new law, bringing in a new, you know, or removing an exception from this. Now let us understand what is the difference between a rape which happens outside marriage and a marital rape, as you would want to say, which happens between spouses. If you look at the court proceedings, whenever such cases go to the court, what are the kind of evidences before the judge? He would have some kind of circumstantial evidence. He would have some kind of call records between the parties. He would have some kind of eyewitness, some testimony here and there that yes, we saw, these two people together. And there could be n number of other evidences that will be placed in front of the judge, and the judge will be able to decide whether that case was false or whether that case was genuine. Now let's look at when we are talking about rape within marriage. And I will keep repeating this. When I'm arguing, I'm not supporting a person who is indulging into sexual activities against the wishes of his spouse. But I am going to make strong arguments, because if we are looking at arming only the women with, this particular law, what is the kind of defense a husband has today? Let us look at the relationship from two sides. One, where it's a very normal, healthy relationship between the couple. And when there is a relationship which is already strained between the couple and they are looking forward to perhaps file divorce in the near future. Now, if you look at the former part of it, obviously when things are fine, there will be no issues. But when that graduates into a relationship which is, in murky waters, what is the possibility that a woman will not use this as, a recourse to go ahead and file divorce? Because, that becomes the easiest tool today, that I did not consent. So how would you counter this?
So, ma'am, it is for the investigative agencies to look after the matter, whether this was a matter of consent or whether this was just a vendetta that wife was seeking against her husband. And when you say that, I think we need to recognize that things like these happen. And when we say that marriage is very pious and the institution of marriage will get diluted, and comments like these and arguments like these, I think the basic thing, when there is violence in marriage, I think it justifies everything, that marriage is, that marriage is already broken. There is no point seeking a conjugal kind of a relationship out of that.
If you ask me my very, very personal opinion on RCR, which is restitution of conjugal rights, in my opinion, I think it should be struck down, because I don't think any party can be forced to cohabit with each other by getting an order from the court. Having said that, what does our divorce laws say? It says that if you have been facing abuse for a prolonged period of time, because look at the Domestic Violence Act, how is it defined? It is defined that, if you're facing abuse. Now, there was a movie which came out a couple of years ago, Thappad. What it was suggesting that the husband slapped the wife and he was not even given a second chance to reconcile. The movie was just saying, oh, if you have been slapped once, walk out of marriage. Now, there can be two ways to look at it. You can say, of course, if, I have been facing this kind of abuse, it is absolutely my right as a woman to put my foot down and step out of the marriage. But when it comes to the other way around, where husbands are getting abused daily, beaten, tortured mentally, physically, do they have this kind of similar right? No, they don't. So what do the divorce laws say?
How often do we hear such kind of complaints that the wife is going to beat her husband, or
that is why you should
but
not
it doesn't
only
mean that it does not exist.
You should also start following
my
other
point being, just because we don't hear the cases of marital rape, that does not mean that it is non-existent. That is the point that I'm trying to make.
I will answer that. When you say how many cases we hear about men, tell me how many agencies are recording domestic violence against men.
Exactly, ma'am. They are
recording. No. Tell me which government agency is recording. NCRB is recording full data against dowry violence, against dowry death.
I'm sure you are aware that they are being underreported.
No, but I'm asking you which agency is reporting for the men. You can argue that the numbers reported for women are not accurate, but which is the national, state, or any government agency recording 2-3 things? One is domestic violence on men. Another is how many suicides men are committing due to alimony harassment.
Right. So as you say that, ma'am, I think we often take the example of 498, that it is being that the husband is being tortured in form of dowry or whatever the claims are being made by his wife. I think we need to look at the fact that this needs to be structured. and we need not question that why women women are being even more powered, or are being made to give agencies over marriage. But I think what we need to discuss is that why these laws were not formed in a gender neutral ways.
No, but right now what I'm saying is that it's a different aspect. The aspect is that we don't want to address the gross misuse of 498A, and this is not what men's rights activists are saying alone. Supreme Court has termed this as, it's one of the laws which has been most grossly abused.
Right.
If you pick up NCRB data of last 5 to 10 years, you will see the number of acquittals, which are almost 80 to 90% versus convictions. Even in that, you can argue that all acquittals may not be that they were false cases. Fine, let us even strike down 10% out of that. But today what is happening is nobody wants to discuss and deliberate on the misuse which is happening. Today, any misuse, any false case which is registered against husband and his family.
But can we say?
No, I want to just complete this. Any case which is registered, the man and his family are in court for 5 years, 10 years. After the end of that matter, what does he get? He gets a mere acquittal. What does the wife get? She's in a win-win situation. She has nothing to lose because there is.
But can we say that things like these don't take place? It is up to the law agencies that they are not able to formulate a very strong law. It is always going to be the case that the criminals, the perpetrator, are going to find a way to bypass that law. That should not stop law agencies, and that should not stop our legislators to form a very strong law.
No, but you are saying that we will not address the past issues which are.
No, I'm not.
I'll tell you, Anubha, I don't know how much you interact with people, being a part of feminism in India. But on a daily basis, I get several messages on my Twitter, Facebook, Instagram DMs, where people are writing to me that, we are literally at the mercy of our wife or our daughter-in-law. Daily, we are getting threats by her and her family that we'll file cases against you, you transfer the property in her name, or we'll send you under dowry harassment case. You don't want to address
it is something that should be covered under the law. That is what I'm saying, that there should be a way to make this law to make this law a very strong process.
So you are saying
I'm not saying
that we will keep pushing for more and more biased laws, but we will not say a word against the women who are filing false cases.
Anubha, Arnaz, I'd like to ask question to Arnaz. The laws regarding men and women are not gender neutral, and I get that. Okay. But those who trend #marriage strike on Twitter think that marital rape is the final nail in the coffin of institution of marriage. Why do they think that? Isn't there any other way of looking at it, or isn't there any other perspective to it?
So let's understand, people, first of all, there are very few people who are even vocal about the issues men face. Now, the people who have been particularly trending this hashtag, which is marriage strike, are the ones who have gone through the ordeal of false cases. They have seen their old parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, their husbands, their wives going through the court drama. And after years and years of, being entangled in that court room drama, all they get is a mere acquittal. So these are people who have seen the abuse, who have seen the other side of how women can be vindictive and how they can actually, take the entire family to ransom just because her, idea of empowerment was not met within that household. Why they are trending marriage strike is because look at this, today even when we are arguing against the criminalization of marital rape, what has the media or a section of media done? They've started labeling all these men as potential rapists. So in a way, they're saying that either it is our way, or you guys need to just shut up, or we will label you as rapists. Now, in this scheme of things, you tell me, where does it leave the men? Today, if you're saying, no, you must get married, but you have to be always at the mercy of your wife, because tomorrow, if she wants to strike back, she has this battery of laws in her favor, which she can not only file against you, but against your entire family. So what is the option left with the men in India today? You tell me, what is the recourse for men? When we say what is the recourse for women, I want to ask you, what is the recourse for men in India?
Anubha, respond to it.
So, ma'am, my question, just an observation. Why do we always keep on chanting this thing that it is going to leave men in a place where they will be violated and where they will not be protected, when we are trying to just empower women with more rights? But can you? That is point number one, and also that. Can you deny that marital rapes do not happen? They do not take place.
I will ask both your questions.
Yes, ma'am.
First, when we say that, let me put it in a way, the way media is putting it, why are men fearing when this law will, be enacted, or when this particular section will be removed?
Right.
Men, today, I will list down few laws in favor of wife. And I just want you to list down the number of laws which are in favor of men today.
Ma'am, let me start,
because that is the crux of the problem. Today, when you say why men are opposing because a section of women's rights activists is only trying to bring in more and more one-sided laws, which leaves them with absolutely zero recourse. This is the crux of the problem. It may lead to marriage strike hashtag. It may lead to any other hashtag. I don't care. But why are we fearing?
My point is just मैम मेरा पॉइंट सिर्फ इतना है, मुझे सिर्फ इतना पूछना है कि आज से पहले जब ये मैरिटल रेप की बात नहीं होती थी तो ये चीजें क्यों नहीं आती थी कि आदमियों को ज्यादा एम्पावर किया गया है या आदमियों के लिए क्या रिसोर्सेज अवेलेबल हैं, ये बातें तब क्यों नहीं आती थी? बट ऑल ऑफ सडन जो ये शिफ्ट हो रहा है,
अगर आप मीडिया पोर्टल्स को पढ़ेंगे, then naturally you will not be aware of for how many years men have been fighting.
I do work for a media platform.
Let's say even if you're reading a particular section of the media and if you're totally unaware of what is the ground movement happening, men and men's rights NGOs have been existing in India for over 2 decades now. It is not that yesterday we have all woken up and suddenly we are saying, no, we need the license.
No, I'm not saying that. My point is, as long as marital rape की बात कोई नहीं कर रहा था, and it is after only J.S. Verma committee recommended that it should be struck down from section 375. It is only after that marital rape was being discussed in open public debates. So my point is just that उससे पहले क्यों कोई इस बारे में बात नहीं कर रहा था that it will lose the agency.
तो और भी कोई नहीं कर रहा था ना. अगर जस्टिस वर्मा ने ये डिबेट शुरू की है तो वुमेन्स राइट्स एक्टिविस्ट भी तो इस पे बात नहीं कर रही थी. And tell me one thing, why did Congress under UPA to reject this proposal of Justice Verma?
In 1991, the same UK who are responsible for this IPC whole thing, they struck down the provision of marital rape from their set of laws. They criminalized it. So why do you think that that the same law or not even the same law, that the same provision cannot exist in our country?
Ma'am, when
are we saying that it is non-existent? Are we saying that?
Right. I will give you a very small example. Just give me 1 second. हम यूके की बात कर रहे हैं, and let us also take examples of other countries which have been, yes, but a lot of other countries have also criminalized marital rape law, and that is one of the strong arguments by the petitioners.
Just a second, ma'am. यूके का एग्जांपल मैंने इसलिए दिया है क्योंकि जो आईपीसी है, it was formed when we were under British rule. तो इसलिए मैंने यूके का एग्जांपल दिया because Lord Macaulay was responsible for forming IPC. इसलिए मैंने सिर्फ यूके का एग्जांपल.
I'm not debating. I'm saying यूके है और मैं खुद आपको बता रही हूँ और भी बहुत सारी कंट्रीज है.
Exactly, 74 कंट्रीज हैं. 74 कंट्रीज हैं जो मैरिटल रेप को क्रिमिनलाइज करने की जिनकी प्रोविजंस हैं.
Absolutely, जिसका रेफरेंस भी पेटिशनर्स ने दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट के पेटिशन में दिया हुआ है. Now, let me just read out to you what the UK provision says. Okay? It says offense occurs when a person commits sexual act without the consent of their spouse, not wife, or does against their will. Now, what it says, they define what is marital rape. They say either it's penetration or, it could be against the consent. Further, it clarifies that the act of marital rape does not apply to women because there is no penetration, but that does not, give her relief if there is any kind of sexual coercion, causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent, or sexual assault against her partner, spouse, or her husband.
Ma'am, at least we.
Is this included in the Delhi High Court?
Ma'am, I am not saying that we are going to have the same provision as of UK and as of 73 other countries. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that we need to have a debate and we need to form a law, at least a law that can
right now the debate is not about what you and I think. Right now, what is the petitioners and what is the petition?
I'm just keeping the point of view that the government and that the law agencies are taking. I'm just keeping that point of view. I'm not keeping my point of view.
Anubha, when we talk about the laws regarding women, the state and the police quickly steps in, but when it comes to men, why doesn't the state and the police step in?
That is a very men-centric kind of a question that you are asking me, Neeraj.
No, that's a relevant question because we can't ignore the other side. So that's the question that the media is not asking.
But do you think that when cases like these come up, so we need to understand that the society is very sensitive towards when cases like these women come up, and which is why they respond very quickly. But that does not mean that agencies do not step in very quickly or as promptly as in a women's case.
Ma'am, but
this
is exactly
the same question goes for Arna's. Why is it so that bringing the police and the state in such laws is not supported by the men's rights group? I mean, if the person hasn't done anything wrong, why should he fear? Why should he be afraid of the police or the state?
So I will just go back to what Anubha said, and she answered the question herself, where she said ki aisa nahi hai agar, but the the softer part, or how would you say, the kind of sympathy of police would definitely rest with the woman. Today, in exactly same scenario, a woman goes to the police to complain domestic violence and a man goes to complain. We very well know that the police is duty bound to respond to that woman, to take her complaint, register an FIR, whereas several men, even after being abused, beaten up, threatened, they have gone to the police station, and what is the reply they get? ये आपका घर का मामला है, हम इसमें FIR दर्ज नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है, तो ये एक बेसिक पॉइंट है जो हम आर्ग्यू कर रहे हैं, which leads to the arguments of your further questions, which you say that why are the men scared? If they are not so-called potential rapists of their wives, why are they scared of, getting in or rather eliminating this exception? Now you tell me, today, if a married man, is having consensual sex with his wife, and the next morning the wife wakes up and she says, I did not consent. Are you telling me the husband is supposed to live under this fear for the rest of his life with that wife कि पता नहीं कल अगर मैंने उसको कोई ज्वेलरी नहीं दिलाई या कुछ मैंने उसको my in-laws के साथ उसका झगड़ा हो गया? The man is always at a threat of being charged as a rapist. So definitely we have a valid ground to be worried, because what you're saying is हम तो ये law ले आएंगे, हम तो
that means the agencies are not going to you are saying that the agencies are not going to say
one minute, madam. I'll come to the agencies. So you are saying
my point is
we are giving XYZ recourse to the woman. Let her file the case, then let the agencies take over.
Madam, case file से पहले examination होगा, कुछ investigation होगा.
कैसे होगा examination? अगर आपकी wife मैडम अगर वाइफ ने बोला 10 दिन पहले मेरा रेप किया है हस्बैंड ने, कैसे कौन करेगा इन्वेस्टिगेशन? What is the investigating officer even going to do without a medical record?
मैम मेरा पॉइंट इतना है कि ये जो अगर कोई वाइफ इस तरीके का केस लेकर भी आती है तो पहले इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा तब तो कोई केस फाइल होगा ना, इन्वेस्टिगेशन होगा ना. इट इज फॉर द लॉ एजेंसीज टू
how, that is what I'm saying, define it. How is the police officer going to define whether the woman consented?
I cannot speak for somebody, no, I cannot speak for police. It is for the law agencies to find this law, na. That is why these deliberations are taking place, na. That is why that is why the government has not just enacted the law.
प्रॉब्लम यही है मैम, सोशल मीडिया में everybody has become an activist because जैसे हम रेप नाम सुनते हैं या वाइफ रेपिस्ट सुनते हैं, we get fed up without understanding the ground reality.
मेरी बात सुनिए. रेप का भी कोई केस अगर आउटसाइड ऑफ मैरिज अगर कोई रेप केस जाता है तो उसकी इन्वेस्टिगेशन कुछ होती है ना.
वही तो मैंने आपको
मैम इसीलिए तो ये डेलिब्रेशन हो रहे हैं ना, इसीलिए तो जो ड्यू कोर्स ऑफ प्रोसीजर है वो देखा जा रहा है ना, इसीलिए तो वी जस्ट डू नॉट हैव अ लॉ. एंड इसीलिए तो ऐसा है ना कि लॉ एजेंसी जो है उन्होंने सीधा स्ट्रक डाउन नहीं कर दिया.
मैम जब आप इस पे यू आर सेइंग नहीं वी मस्ट ब्रिंग इन दिस, लेकिन आपके पास जवाब ही नहीं है कि व्हाट विल बी द एक्शन बाय द इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग.
मैम इट इज अप टू द मैम आप मेरी बात नहीं समझ रहे ना. इट इज अप टू द लॉ टू टेक दीस इन कंसीडरेशन.
So you cannot advocate something unless you have the details.
I'm not an advocate. मैं advocate नहीं हूँ. मैं जैसे आप एक एक्टिविस्ट हैं, मैं भी एक एक्टिविस्ट हूँ.
So I have a question.
That is what I'm trying to say.
Both of you, same question for both of you. And if the law is formulated in a very gender neutral way, where every minor detail is defined and it ensures that equal justice for both the wife part and the man part will receive. Will you support that?
See, on gender neutral, I have another thought. I'm not saying that men are not facing sexual abuse or sexual harassment in the marriage. In fact, last week we put out a detailed record where there were several cases where, you know, men have narrated their stories, how their wives were forcing them. These were cases, in fact, where both the couples were anticipating a divorce and the woman's lawyer was telling her, you must have a child so that you can extract more and more maintenance out of it. So these cases do happen within four corners of the wall. We cannot ignore it. Now let's assume that tomorrow they say marital rape will be a gender neutral law. I would want to ask you, how do you think the police is going to react when a wife steps into the police station and says, I want to register a complaint of rape against my husband, versus a man visiting a police station and saying मेरी wife ने मेरा rape कर दिया या whatever you want to say या मेरे साथ जबरदस्ती की? What do you think will be the first reaction of the police, society, or anybody who is listening to this kind of narrative? Do you think the person will even get a fair chance? Do you think if both the parties, let's assume if both the husband and wife are putting same allegations against each other, you know, both of us have been raped without our consent, whose word do you think is going to weigh above the other? So I feel this whole gender neutral thing is a secondary thing. First, we need to decide who and how is the investigation going to take place in this kind of a charge. Anybody, either spouses who is going through this kind of physical abuse, the women currently have a recourse to step out. A man doesn't even have a recourse. Only recourse he has is to file divorce on grounds of cruelty. जैसे ही उसने वो grounds file कर दिए, he is rebounded back with 100 other cases like dowry, unnatural sex, domestic violence. So for a man, he's already cornered. We are trying to corner him more and push him to suicide. And then we say, अच्छा वो हमारा काम नहीं है, वो law and agencies देखेंगे. But you keep living in fear. If you are objecting to this, that means you want to have a license to rape your wife.
So Anubha, Arnaz is saying that proper investigation process needs to be defined, and it needs to ensure that equal justice for men should also be available. And she thinks that the gender neutral part is totally different for this particular situation, but the investigation process needs to be improved, right, Arnaz?
Yes, and also the timelines, because are we saying that a woman can step into a police station and say I was raped 1 year before? Or are we saying that there is a rape which has happened between the husband and wife. It is a fresh case where she's willing to undergo medicals, willing to put on record the kind of physical abuse she has faced from her husband, and then the case will be registered. So we need to be very, very clear, because you've seen in Me Too the kind of, just random allegations that have been flying, like 10 years before, 15 years before I was raped. Now, how is the man supposed to defend himself? Everything cannot be from the perspective of a woman. The law has to be fair, a law has to be balanced, so that both parties have equal opportunity to defend themselves.
Anubha, how will you respond to that?
So I think my point being that present law against marital rape, or that for that matter against domestic violence, puts women on a pedestal lower to marriage or lower to her bodily autonomy. And my point is that under Article 14, under Article 19, under Article 21, all these are fundamental rights. I think we need to empower women, and we need to give them the right that they deserve against their bodies.
Okay, last closing comments.
Before I close, I really want to list down the number of laws in favor of women, and I really want Anubha to list down the number of laws in favor of men, and then we can talk about
and
empowerment.
For as long as we did not have these debates that okay, so let us change that this and this status quo.
No, but right now you are on the debate, and you are saying
all
that
the laws were in favor.
No, you are saying empower women. So I think
all the laws were in favor.
No. We need to have facts on rather than just having
this is not men, this is not against men versus women. The point being that the perpetrator sometime was men, and the perpetrators sometime are going to be women. So this is not against men versus women, man.
It is men versus women, because you are not talking about a gender neutral law. You are only saying the husband will be penalized. You're only saying that despite all the recourses available to women, you still want to give them one more recourse. But she can have options.
Are they enough? The government. The point is that are the recourses that are available?
That's what I'm saying.
There are civil laws. Are they enough? Are they enough? They are not enough. What if
I will list down the few laws that I remember offhand. You list down the few laws for men, then that will end the whole debate over here.
Man, the point.
Okay, so this will be the last thing. Arnaz will list down the laws, and Anubha will also list down her laws.
Why do I have to take as per
because you just said that women need to be empowered, so you are creating a narrative that women don't have any rights in India, and therefore they need to be empowered.
The point. Okay, so the point that Section 375 till now, it just talks about that the exception that if a man commits sexual intercourse with her wife, who is below the age of 50, who is not below the age of 15, will not be considered as marital rape, right? So this is the provision, the present provision, and they just want to struck down the subsection men and husbands, namely husbands, not men, namely husbands. So this is the basic provision that is empowers men itself. And they just want to struck down this particular subsection.
Okay, so closing comments first from Anubha, and then Arnaz will go on.
Yes. So my point, as we take this debate forward, I think I just want to keep few points. J.S. Verma committee rightly had pointed out that we need to take away this exception that marital rape should be taken away, because in independent India we cannot have colonial laws still working and still dominating our society, and we need to really take this forward, that individual liberty, individual freedom and fundamental rights are way more important than institutions of marriage. And because if something like violence in marriage is existing, I think it says it all, that marriage is not sacrosanct, and marriages are bound to take another course.
Arnaz, go on. Last closing comment.
The Justice Verma committee, which had recommended criminalizing marital rape as an offence in 2013, just after the Nirbhaya incident, was actually rejected by Dr. Manmohan Singh under UPA 2. primarily because they were warned against tsunami of false cases, which people have already been seeing in the Anti-Dowry Act, which is 498A. Over the next 10 years, that is in 2022, the number of false cases have only doubled and not reduced. So at first, it's not about, the previous government did it or the current government is anti-women. It's nothing to do with government. It's to do with politics. Who is going to bell the cat? Whoever is in opposition is going to place the ball in the other person's hand. Now, when we talk about violence in a marriage, especially when we are talking about sexual violence, I repeat, women today have several laws which will allow them to break free from this kind of a sexually abusive marriage. Please do not create this narrative that, oh, if a woman is getting raped by a husband, she has to live in that marriage and she has to suffer for the rest of her life. I will want to sum it up that today women have the Domestic Violence Act, they have 498A, they have Section 377, they have several acts for maintenance. They have Section 125 CRPC, which means even if a woman is married for one single day, she is entitled to maintenance from her husband for the rest of her life if she does not remarry. Okay, even if she chooses to live separately by just alleging some kind of cruelty against her husband, she is entitled. Let me now finish because I will complete the kind of laws women have in their favor today. She has recourse to alimony. She has recourse to maintenance under HAMA, which is Hindu Maintenance and Adoptions Act. And she has several other sections under which, several grounds under which she can go and file divorce from a man. What is the kind of recourse that a man has? Let's say he's not even in a sexually abusive marriage. He's in a marriage which is abusive mentally, verbally, day in and day out. He's facing this kind of abusive marriage. The only recourse he has is to go and file divorce under Section 13 on grounds of cruelty. Ma'am, just visit any family court and pick up any divorce case filed by a man which has been concluded in 5 or 10 years. You will be surprised to see that men have absolutely no recourse. Okay, if you are saying let us empower women with more laws, more criminal laws, a man today doesn't even have a basic domestic violence act in his favor. So let us be practical.
Anubha, just we would like to conclude it. So right. Anubha, please respond this in 30 seconds.
This is my last point. This is my last point. Please see, you are not giving time accumulated.
No. So I am giving time, but
this is my last point that I want to make. That marital rape, or for that matter, any law is not against somebody, is not against men, or it is not against pro-women. I think it is just the time to correct the historical wrongs. It is just about that.
It is about, it is anti-men because you are making it absolutely one-sided.
Man, that is testimony will only this will take another hour for us to conclude then.
So the case is going on in the court, and the topic is very controversial, and it is very it will be a very hard task. It will be a very difficult task for the courts to decide whether marital rape should be criminalized or not, or whether the marital rape law should be made gender neutral or not, or whether it should be strike down. So with this discussion, it was very fruitful discussion where every point of view was being considered. So thank you for watching today's episode, and we'll meet again with such new topics which concern the social causes for this social causes of India and society. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Arnaz, and thank you, Anubha, for coming to our Yuva Manch debate. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.